Let's start with a kapitel chaf in Tehillim.
Up top. You gotta look up, as Rabbi Kate would say. Yeah, that's Brooklyn for you. Brooklyn Electrical. I think we should just go to candlelights again.
This chus for all the Yisrael should be protected. The hostages should be freed miraculously, and that the war should end miraculously in an absolute victory. And all this should happen. Take it umiyad mamish. All the wounded should be healed. Lam natseach mizmor David. Yancha Adonai v'yem tzara v'tagev Hashem Elokecha Yaakov. Yishlach ezecha mekodesh u'mitzin yisadeka. Yizkar kol mechisecha v'aylascha yidash nesela. Itan lecha chil babecha v'chalatzascha yimale. Ranana b'shuasecha u'shem Eloheinu nidgel. Yimale Adonai kol meshalesecha. Ata yedaiti k'shia Adonai Mashiach. Yanehu mishmei koche. B'gvuros yesh yimine. Eile v'rechev, eile v'susi, v'nachnu b'shem Adonai Eloheinu nazkir. Einu akaru v'nafolu, v'nachnu kamnu v'nasedu. Adonai Yeshia, Amelech Yahaneinu v'yem kareinu. Let's take it into the pushka. Schos of tzedakah, Tehillim, David Melech. Okay. So this mimer is, every mimer, generally speaking, begins with either a pasuk from Chumash, pasuk from Tanakh, or a statement from Gemara or Medrash. And that's usually how it begins, and that becomes the name of the mimer. So the name of this mimer is Acharei Hashem Telechu, and it's based on a pasuk in Chumash, which we'll soon look at. But the mimer itself is from the Alter Rebbe. So there is, on top of the page, it says Likutei Torah. So this is, I had in mind to bring up. I'll bring it up tomorrow for those that perhaps haven't seen what it looks like. Likutei Torah is sort of the next thing to study after Tanya. The Alter Rebbe said a mimer on every single parasha in the Torah. Tzemach Tzedek, which is the third Rebbe of Chabad, the Alter Rebbe's grandson, he went through 2,000 different Maimorim, and then he chose which ones to print. And he printed these Maimorim under the title Likutei Torah, which means a compilation of teachings. And these are Maimorim on each parsha. And we find that the Rabbeim and all the future generations that followed, in the times of the Mittel Rebbe, Tzemach Tzedek, Rabbi Marash, all the Rabbeim, our Rebbe included, it's all sort of based on what is found in the Likutei Torah. So this Maimer, and we'll learn more sources from other Maimarim about the same subject, is talking about we have Maimarim here on the table, you can come and take it. Maybe someone should put it on one of those tables so it'll be easier to get it. Yeah, thank you.
Rabbi Majeski, can you remind me which parsha it's in so I can find it?
Hey.
Right.
So first of all, let's look in the booklet just to see where the pasuk is in the Chumash. So in this booklet, it's on page 9 and 10 and 11. It starts off where it's underlined. It starts off in its chapter in Re'eh. It's kapitel Yud Gimel, chapter 13, pasuk beis. It starts off by saying, if there's going to be someone that'll rise, someone will stand up and he'll claim that he's a Nabi, he's a prophet, or a Chalem or a dreamer, meaning he sees prophetic visions in a dream. And not only that, but he gives you Ois Emepis. He's going to show you miracles do things that are supernatural, then this person who is performing these miracles and claims that he's a prophet will come to say things to you like, let us go after other gods. He'll actually tell people that he's speaking in the name of Hashem, that they should worship Avodah Zarah, gods that you never knew and now is the time to serve them. Don't listen to the words of this prophet or this dreamer. So why does Hashem allow a person to perform miracles, do things that are supernatural, which is so convincing that he is a messenger of Hashem? So the Torah says the reason is Hashem Elokecha. God is testing you to know, do you really love God? Do you really love Him with all your heart? Because if you love Him with all your heart and all your soul, then you wouldn't deviate from the right path. You would follow what Hashem tells you to do. And that's how it concludes with these words. And these are the words the mimer begins with. Acharei Hashem Elokecha Telechu, which means you should go after Hashem, follow Him. You should fear Him. As mitzvahs of the Shmer, you should keep His commandments. You should listen to His voice. And you should be serving Him. And you should attach yourself or cleave to Him. So there are 6 different terms used here. One is to follow Him. The other is to fear Him. The other is to observe His mitzvahs. Then there's to listen to His voice, to serve Him, and to attach yourself to Him. And this mimer is actually a long mimer and goes into what are all the 6 different levels. It's a few pages. We're not going to learn the whole mimer. We're only going to learn a small segment of this mimer, the first part. And the first part goes into understanding the first part of the pasuk. What does it mean? Go after Hashem, follow Him, go behind Him. Going behind someone means you're following behind them, you're letting them lead you. So let's look at the mimer inside. Okay, unfortunately I don't have an English translation for this, so I'll try to translate as I go along. If I'm going too fast, let me know. If I'm going too slow, let me know. If I'm not going all together, let me know. Okay. Parat HaKosov Shisha Dvarim. The Torah lists 6 things in Avodas Hashem. Telechu, follow after Him. Tiro, fear Him. Tishmeru, observe. V'kaila Tishmeru, listen to His voice. Him you should serve, and you should attach yourself to Him. What does it say right before this? Why is Hashem allowing such a thing? Hashem is allowing a person to have such power, which potentially could mislead people to think that he's really a messenger of Hashem. The answer is, Hashem is testing you to know, and to know what? Whether you really love Him and really are dedicated and loyal to Him. Lahavin, we need to understand, Ma'u Kimenasa. What does it mean Hashem is testing you? It doesn't explain the question. It just says we need to understand. But the question is an obvious question, and a little bit later it'll go more into the details. The obvious question is, Hashem doesn't need a test to know how devoted I am, how dedicated I am. Human beings, if you want to know whether somebody is true, faithful, loyal, you don't know what's doing in their heart, so you can't know. The fact that they speak a certain way, they say things, but you don't know, in reality, what are they really feeling? The only way you could know is when something comes up, and you see, are they really loyal or not? But Hashem, one of the basic principles of belief is that He knows every thought of my mind, and He knows all the thoughts and feelings of my heart. So He knows before anything happens how strong I am, how much I could handle, how I would act under certain stressful situations. He doesn't need to put me into the situation to see. He knows in advance what I have. I'm looking at this cup. This is a 10-ounce cup. So imagine if you want to know whether the water in this cup could fit into a little mashka cup. Do I have to pour it in to find out, or do I know in advance? You don't have to pour it in and then pour it. Oh, if it spills over into the floor, it's a sign that the little thing can't hold this big thing. It's too much. I know measurements. This is 10 ounces. That's who knows how much, maybe 1 ounce. So there's no way that this will be able to be contained in this. Hashem knows what's going on in my heart. And he knows how much love I have, how much loyalty I have, how much things I have. This is one of the most basic principles of belief, that, and so much mitzvahs, so many laws are all depending on thought, what I'm thinking. So if Hashem knows what I'm thinking and Hashem knows what I'm feeling, he knows how I'm going to react when there'll be a challenge. He doesn't have to put me to the challenge. So that's the question. What is the purpose of the test? Or inyan. So the inyan is as follows. Kine haneshama kedem yiridasa lamata. Before the neshama comes down to this world, hoisa emedas ba'olam ha'elyon. The neshama was standing in a higher spiritual world. So as we know that when a baby is born, the guf, the physical body, is actually a new creation. It did not exist before. And it was created through the process of the father and the mother create a physical body. That's the baby. But the neshama is something which existed since the beginning of creation. And where was the neshama all this time? The baby is born today. So that's 5,784 years after the world was created. Where was the neshama until now? And the answer is the neshama was Lamaila in the heavenly realm. Be more specific, in Gan Eden, and the neshama is in a spiritual place. But like everything else, where's there a source in the Torah itself? These words, Acharei Hashem Elokecha. I put together in this book, like all the other Maimarim, that you can actually see the source. So if you turn to page 15, you see the words. These words are being said by Elisha. Elisha was a Navi, a prophet. And he said like this, Hashem, before whom I stood, lives. And I swear that I will not accept whatever the situation there was. Somebody wanted to give him gifts because he did him a great favor and performed a big miracle. And he swore that he's not going to accept this. But he swore in the name of Hashem. When he said that he's swearing in the name of Hashem, he said, I swear in the name of Hashem that I stood before him. What does it mean I stood before him? Especially if it's past tense. You're always in front of Hashem. So this is one of the sources that it means that before the neshama came down to this world, in the past, I stood before Hashem, before I came down to this physical world. By the way, I just wanted to also show you that this pasuk, Ki Menaseh, is the original source for the term of testing, that Hashem gives us tests. So for example, on page 12, we have these words which we actually say in davening every day, but it's from the Chumash, where it says, when Hashem asked Avraham Avinu to bring his son Yitzchak to the Akedah, what does it say? V'Elokim nisa es Avraham. Hashem tested Avraham. And that's what appears on the surface. Hashem is testing to see how loyal he was. If you look at page 13, which is a continuation, the line that's underlined in Hebrew, where it says, after Avraham Avinu was ready to sacrifice his son, and Hashem said, stop, don't do anything. It says, Ki ata yadaiti, now I know, Ki rei elikim ata, that you're really truly God-fearing. In other words, the test made it clear how loyal he is. Or another place where we see these terms is on page 14, where it says, Asara Nisyonis. There are 10 tests that Avraham Avinu was tested. And he stood by all the 10 tests. And all this was done, to let everyone know how precious and how much Hashem loves Avraham Avinu. So this is the word for a test. It comes from these words, Menasa, Hashem is testing you. So now he's explaining what is this test. So before the neshama comes down to this world, the neshama is in a higher spiritual plane. The neshama is standing before Hashem, which means in the presence of Hashem. Over there, the neshama was surrounded with godliness revealed. It's not a world like this world. It's not a world of gashmis, not food and not clothing and not money and not business and no other thing. The only thing that goes on in the spiritual realm is godliness revealed. After the neshama comes down, after the neshama spends time up there, rather, Yarda b'seisra madregas, the neshama comes down through many, many different levels. In this physical world, Hashafel, this low physical world, lies behester upon him, and now Hashem's face is hidden, and far, far away, very distant from Hashem. So that's the basic and key difference between before and after. Before, the neshama was in a place where Hashem's presence was there in a revealed way. And now Hashem's presence is hidden. In other words, Hashem's presence is everywhere. There's no such thing as a place where Hashem's presence is not found. But the difference is it found in a revealed way or in a hidden way? So that's the difference to the neshama. So why does Hashem do that? Tama takes a neshama that's living in a place which spiritually is bliss, and Hashem sends the neshama down to a place which is dark, a place which is distant, which is cold, and Hashem is totally concealed. The reason why the neshama comes down is b'shvil nisyan, is mainly, primarily for this reason, to be tested. What's a test? The definition of a test is anything that would be considered Hashem's face is being hidden, and that the chai is the sustenance, and the flow of life that comes from Hashem is being interrupted. The meniyas briyas aguf of chas v'shalom, it doesn't allow a person is not healthy, something is lacking in health, or something's lacking financially. These are the things that are, by definition, called hester panim. It's hiding Hashem's face. In other words, basically, Hashem is chesed. He is kindness. And therefore, he gives and wants us to have and to be happy and to be healthy and to have what we need. Yes, there must be a reason why he's doing what he's doing, but when he doesn't give us the things that we need and it's painful, that means he's hiding. Not that he's not involved, chas v'shalom, and someone else is doing it or taking over. This is Hashem doing it, but he's doing something in a hidden way for a reason known to him. But this is called hester panim. So anything which is painful, anything which is not openly godly is called hester panim. And in different words, anything which is not openly good is not openly God. Because godliness openly is goodness. And anything which is not good in our perception, anything which is painful, any kind of struggle, anything that's hurting, that means godliness is concealed. Or that's one example, the Gashmis. And of course, the same is Baruchnius. These are things that, I skipped the line. When Hashem does this conceals his life, conceals his light, conceals his holiness. And these are things that happen that they prevent a person, either something's happening internally or something's happening from the outside that is preventing a person, Shabbat, the Skar of Hashem, he wants to get close to Hashem, and these are things that block him and prevent them from serving Hashem and getting close to Hashem. There's a pasuk in Yirmiyahu, and this is a pasuk that you can also look up. This must be on page, which page is this? Page 18. The way Hashem set up this world is that we see that the wicked seem to be successful. It's not real success, but it appears that way. And who could see this more than what we just witnessed and what we're witnessing now? Madua derech rishoyim sleicha. This is an old question. It's a question that's a few thousand years old, and it's in Yirmiyahu, one of the books of the prophets. Why do the ways of the wicked prosper? Why do we see that wicked people should sort of be successful in what they're doing? In fact, with their wickedness. And in a certain sense, this is probably one of the biggest concealments of godliness in the world. When you see a person does something which is evil, and not only they don't become destroyed, but on the contrary, they seem to be successful. Doesn't that hide Hashem's presence, as if Hashem is not running the world, because it's not running according to his principles and his values? And that's what the pasuk means, that this person, the pasuk said, that person who's performing these miracles will come along and say, Necha, come, let's go and worship idols. What does it mean? Sham gili ho'iz ba'meifes, v'agbos karnam. In the place of Klippa, we can see amazing things happening. We can see how they lift their banner. B'hagdala v'ribi achayis. They have a lot of money, or they have a lot of power, or they have a lot of whatever it is. And therefore they say, Yodeinu Davka Rama. They say, see, we are the stronger one. Or another pasuk which says, Magbiim Kanesha Kinam. They rise like an eagle, just like an eagle flies higher than all other birds. That's how they fly, and they're flying high because look at their success. Of course, what we see happening now is on a huge global level, but these things happen to every person on a personal level. You're dealing with someone in business, and that person happens to be a thief, steals money from you, and not only that they steal the money from you and they committed something which is a crime, they seem to be successful. This money is bringing them success in what they're doing. So of course we know that ultimately, not only it's not really a success, but it's actually something which is going to destroy them forever. But you don't see that. That's something which you see later. At the moment, you don't see that. And this is something very difficult. Tzarech ha'adam is gabrus yuseira. Person needs to really struggle very hard, lamed b'nesayin, to stand up to this test. I mentioned before that before the neshama comes down, in Shamayim, is godliness revealed. Even though in Shamayim there's also another place where there are wicked people, and wicked people are being punished. So over there you see the opposite. Like punishment, you see suffering. But the answer is that's also godliness revealed. The mere fact that a person who did evil and now they're paying the price for it, that's godliness revealed. What is godliness concealed when a person does evil and they actually succeed. And they seem to be raised to a higher level and a higher level. And we find this, by the way, by Haman. Haman was a Rasha, and we see what kind of Rasha he was. He had the same aspirations as Hitler, Yamach Shemay, the same as Hamas. All they wanted was to wipe out every Jew from the face of the earth. What happened to him? He became the highest person in the country, the second in command to King Ahasuerus. It says in Gemara that the reason for that is, it's based on a pasuk, by the way. We say it in davening, and I'll show you where it is. The pasuk is a pasuk in Tehillim, but we also say it in davening. It begins with the word Mizmar Shir Yom HaShabbos. Let me just find it here. I'll tell you which pasuk it is, so you can always look it up later. It's chapter 92, pasuk 8. The Freyach Rishoyim, we see wicked people sprouting, K'may Esav. They're sprouting and growing. In other words, they're becoming bigger and bigger. Who? The people who do evil. Yishamdam adei ad, in order to destroy them forever. In other words, the higher someone is, the greater is their fall when they fall. So Hashem lifts this person, like Haman, to a high position, and then later his humiliation and his downfall is even greater. Of course, it's not that this is the full explanation, but it means that when we see them being successful, it's only ultimately going to lead to their ultimate downfall, which is going to be even a greater downfall. But on the surface, it definitely appears to be the opposite of godliness. Yeah.
I always wondered why we say this on chapter 4 for Shabbos. Like it seems kind of like I'm supposed to be resting, not like cursing the wicked on Shabbos.
Not what?
Connection, like not cursing the wicked on Shabbos. Like I was in a day of rest.
First, we're not cursing, we're explaining.
Right.
We just finished saying that the Shabbos is like Geula. How could you celebrate Shabbos when you see wicked people being so successful? So we're the kapitel is letting us know, don't worry about their success. It's only going to ultimately lead to their ultimate downfall.
That makes sense. Thank you.
Yeah.
If we like now know that like Hashem try us and like so it's kind of like end of the game because we know like already Hashem try us, so we know like so there is no more trying, like
No more purpose to do it.
yeah.
I agree. Hashem, we all agree. Let's stop this trying business. Obviously, again, we don't understand. We can't even try to understand why these things are happening. But this is after the mind, we'll have maybe a little bit more of an understanding of the real purpose of a nisayon. So let's go a little bit further. So a person has to have a tremendous amount of strength to overcome this test. Not to be affected by any of these things that are blocking and getting in the way. And that's why Hashem makes the test. The purpose of the test is that I should overcome the test. And by doing that, I will reach a higher level, which is the level of das. In other words, we're explaining the pasuk differently. Not Hashem makes a test so that he should know, but he makes the test that we should know. What does it mean we should know? So he's going to explain now that there's different levels of the way we can understand Hashem. One is Chokhmah, one is Bina, and the highest level is Das. And in order to reach that highest level, this comes through an assignment, through a test. So first of all, just on a simple level, what this is saying is that the real purpose of a test, even though it looks like Hashem is beating me, but the reality is that the purpose is to raise me to a higher level. For example, let's use a simple example. If a child comes home and says to their mother, I have homework. Ma, this is my homework. If you could please do it for me, I want to go play with my friends. And the mother says, no way. You sit down and you do the homework. I said, why? My friend Yossi, his mother does the homework for him. So let his mother do the homework for him. You're doing the homework. So a little child, in his mind, his mother's being very mean. That mother is so kind. And my mother is mean. And you might even tell her. You're mean. You're making me sit to work, do this hard work. What is homework? Sit down and figure this out yourself. I'm not going to give you the answers. That's mean. The mother knows the answer, and she's withholding the answer from the child. But the reality is, and when the child grows up, he's going to appreciate his mother for that, is that a child that's going to have a situation where he's going to get all the answers from his mother and all the answers from his friends, he's going to grow up, he will be lacking because he never had to use his own brain to figure things out, unfortunately. He doesn't know how to use his own brain to figure things out. So the fact that the mother is not giving him the answer and is sort of putting him in a position where he has to figure out himself, her purpose, her real reason for that is to develop his brain. And the only way to develop is if you have to try to figure it out yourself. If I give it to you, it won't develop your brain. But think of another example. If a person has weak muscles, they go to physical therapy. If you ever had to go to physical therapy, what do? They give you something to lift. What is this something? You're very weak. It weighs 10 pounds. Yeah, you pick it up, okay. Now, after a few times going, it's easy, pick up 10 pounds. The guy goes, oh, you're doing it easy? Now lift something 15 pounds. Chutzpah. If it's easy, let me do what's easy. Why do you give me 15 pounds? There's no way that the muscle could become stronger by lifting something which is easy to lift. You won't give somebody a pen and say, lift this 10 times, this will help your muscle. It won't do anything for my muscle. The reason why it strengthens my muscle is because it's not easy, it's hard. I have to develop something deeper within myself, and that makes my muscle stronger. So therefore, if somebody is learning how to run, to jump, and you put a stick right in front of them, it's not you want them to fall. The purpose of the stick is to make them jump higher. And once they learn how to jump 1 foot, then you pick it up a little bit higher. And now they learn how to jump more than a foot. So the point is that when things are blocking, the purpose is not to chas v'shalom, make me struggle, make me suffer, make me have a hard time. The purpose is to bring out within me deeper potential that in normal circumstances doesn't come out. So in Chassidus, it says that specifically that's the meaning of das. Now the question is, what is das? And what is so unique about das? That this is the reason why Hashem makes the test. Das is knowledge that comes usually from re'iyah, from vision, from seeing. Hashem, you have shown yourself, lodas, for us to know you. Basically, what he's saying is that when a person knows something because they understand it, or because someone else tells them about it, that's one level of knowing. When you know something because you see it with your eyes, it penetrates in a whole different way. And in fact, nothing could be so strong like the knowledge you have when you see something with your own eyes. First of all, like everything else, there's an example of this in halacha. There's a halacha that a bezdin, a court of rabbis who are coming to judge someone, specifically if it's a judgment related to a matter of life and death, in order to judge, there has to be room for them to either say the person's guilty or innocent. There has to be room to judge both ways. And then they have to make the judgment. If it's a situation where there's no room to judge both ways, then they cannot judge him. That's what it says in the Torah. There must be a possibility of either guilty or innocent. And therefore, what happens if the judges themselves actually saw this person killing someone else? There's no room to judge both ways. It's clear. We saw with our own eyes what this person did. And therefore, they can be the judges in this case. So the question is asked, what if I'm a judge and their witnesses are coming? I didn't see it myself, but witnesses. One witness is Moshe Rabbeinu, and the other witness is another great tzaddik. Do we have any doubt that they're lying? No, I'm absolutely certain that when they say something, it's 100% emes. So again, there's no room for any doubt. So the answer is, hearing something is not the same. It doesn't register in the brain in the same way like seeing. When you see something, it registers in such a deep way that leaves no room for doubt. And when you hear something, even if you hear it from the most trusted people, but it's still not the same, and there's still some space that if there would be sort of more of a pressure, it could create doubt. So seeing something has a much greater impact on a person than hearing about it, knowing about it. It's not the same like seeing. And many persons could testify to this in their own personal experience, things that they were aware of. And even what happened just now, by the way, when we hear stories of Nazis, this and that, it's one thing. When people who are living today hear what happened just now in our time, right across the ocean, they did exactly the same thing, the same barbaric thing. Somehow it hit them totally on a different level than hearing about something that happened 80 years ago. So, and especially those which you shouldn't do, who were looking at videos and watching with their eyes, it's a whole different level. So when we talk about knowing Hashem, our knowledge of Hashem is hearing about it. We don't see Hashem. But das means a knowledge of Hashem, that we know him and we perceive him with such certainty, with such depth, with such internalization, the same as if it's something that I actually saw with my physical eyes. Yeah.
Somebody just told me, I don't know if this is true, that it's even worse for those of us who are not present, like in these times of like distress, to then like witness these events over social media, because Hashem gave those people like the koyach or like whatever it is, like that is like what they were supposed to deal with, and like then suddenly we are also like seeing it and dealing with it too. But I don't know, then again, like Hashem could have also like obviously knew that we were gonna see it, so then I don't know if the logic breaks down.
Well, I don't know, there's many ways. I just had a discussion yesterday about this with someone. I don't want to go into it at length, but I just want to say is that, remember we said this a number of times, that it says in the Medrash, Hashem spread us out in different parts of the world. Yeah. And the reason is that if, God forbid, there's something going on in one place, then the Jews in the other place could survive. That's the simple meaning. The deeper meaning is not only they could survive, they can do the spiritual things that this place needs, and they can do it to save themselves, whether it's learning, fasting, davening, whatever. One of the things that, especially based on the Rebbe's teaching, that's the most powerful. I don't know if you saw this. Yesterday, there was a video of a woman telling a story that she was in her bomb shelter for 48 hours. And they were in her house battling with the Israeli soldiers for who knows how long. And she was in the bomb shelter. And she said it was a miracle. But what she did was herself, she's not religious. He asked, are you religious? Because I see you have a picture of the Lubavitcher Rebbe. So no, I'm not religious, at all not. But my children became frum, and they became Chabad. And the ones who taught me about religion are actually my grandchildren. They would come to me and say, Bubby, could you please do Lulav and Esmond? I don't know what to do. Just follow us. We'll tell you what to say, and you'll follow us. And that's how she got involved. And she heard from them a lot about the Rebbe. And what did she hear? That you have to think positive and be positive. She was sitting in her place for 48 hours with a mantra. Hashem, thank you for saving my life. Hashem, thank you. And I know you're watching over me. I know the Rebbe is watching over me. The Rebbe is praying for me. And all the Hasidim are praying for me. And she was just thinking positive all along. She has a whole string of miracles that happened to her. So it's very difficult for people in this situation to have that amun and bitachon. If we're going to go put ourselves in that situation and picture in our mind what they're going through and how they feel, we're not accomplishing what we're supposed to. The reason why we're here, thank God, and not there is in order to provide them with this bitachon. Yes, I'm having the bitachon, but it's going to help them. What I'm doing is I'm sort of, denying myself from having the bitachon by going to a place which is going to interfere with my bitachon. So we have to stay away from that. That's true. This part of what we could handle or can't handle, I don't know. I just think our avodah is to be in a free country and do the things that they need to know. Why Hashem chose them for that test and us for this test, that's beyond our understanding. But that's the difference between our mission right now and their mission. You have to have simcha because everything's going to work out. It's very hard for them to have simcha with all the things going on in front of their eyes. So basically, when you see something with your eyes, has an impact like nothing else. I always give the example of people who cannot stop smoking. And as much as their relatives beg them and plead with them and show them all sorts of articles, it doesn't stop them from smoking. And yet, if they ever, this is a story that happened to many people, where they're shown an x-ray of a lung, a diseased lung, Rahman al-Islam, that came as a result from smoking. And the doctor shows them, here's a healthy lung, and this is a lung of a person who's smoking, who now has, unfortunately, a very serious disease. A lot of people, after they saw that, they stopped. And if you ask them, before you saw it, you didn't believe it? No, I believe the doctors. So what changed? Usually people will say, when I saw it, I really believed it. So what's the difference between really believing and believing? Really believing means that it had a different impact on me when I saw it.
This is like Rabbi feels so close right now, something that ages.
Yeah. I mean, a person who's living in America would now go to Israel and go visit a family or something and see what happened. They would break down. Why? What? Everything they see, they already heard before. Because hearing about it is one thing and seeing is a different way. So now we're talking about this in a positive, not about negative. That when you know Hashem through Chachma and Bina, that's one level of knowledge. Das is when you know Hashem on the same level, like when you see something and that has a much greater impact. It penetrates much deeper. It becomes so much more part of me. And that is something which we are able to achieve after a test. Why? That's what he's going to explain in the Maimon. What's the mechanics? How does it work? How does a test accomplish that? Okay, to be continued.
Thank you, Rabbi Majeski.
Okay.